What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing the first of 3 rounds of this 2025 NFL mock draft with trades. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It has been changing, and it has at least changed since even my last videos, so feel free to take a peek at that. All the guys with stars are guys who I still haven't reevaluated for 2024 that I do think will be dropping in their grade, but still, I give you guys full transparency on my actual grades. Let's get on into this. Below that are all the great ways to get involved in the community. Just go to the link tree. It's 2 clicks to get away from anything that you want. I post a lot of All-22 clips over on Twitter, so go over and follow there, because if you haven't, what are you doing? It's free. And then also feel free to use that UnderDog Fantasy code to get up to $1,000 for free when you sign up. Let's get into this. Again, still recovering from concussion protocol. My head's still pretty wonky, so I might have to take a couple takes at this, but you know, we're still going to have a good time. Yeah, so tomorrow's video is going to be interesting when we have rounds 2 and 3, because just like the NFL draft, today's day 1 and tomorrow's day 2. And we go round 1 today, rounds 2 and 3 tomorrow. Let's get into this, though. New England Patriots are sitting at number 1 overall. And I do think that, you know, you could definitely evaluate Travis Hunter here, but I actually like what is developing currently in New England for the wide receiver core, especially in the body type of Travis Hunter. So when I'm looking at like Pop Douglas, right? Like I just think that Travis Hunter and Pop Douglas would have a very similar role, and I think Pop Douglas is worth starting on a team. So like if you're looking at the return on investment, not necessarily there. Left tackle and edge rusher are the ways I like to rock. Will Campbell's the guy for me. You know, when you end up analyzing like what the rest of the teams in the next couple spots are going to be looking at, most of them are going to be looking at either a tackle, or for the Panthers, edge rusher and receiver, or for the Bills, also you look at that tackle, running back, receiver room. So it is a spot where I'd prefer to trade out here. Like that's just genuinely what I'd want to do. But based on the current draft order, there just would be such a significant drop off that I cannot justify it. Like unless you get a really good deal, I cannot justify it. The edge class is much better than I expected. You can see from my board, there are certain players I really love. But Will Campbell is my number 3 overall healthy player in the class. I think he is worth bringing on the squad. Let's go after Will Campbell at number 1. At number 2 for the Carolina Panthers, this is a spot that I definitely love the idea of trading out. And the question is there anybody worth moving up for? You got Travis Hunter here, and I do think teams that would be looking for that dynamic playmaker should certainly be in the market for a move up for Travis. That being said, not many teams. You look at Tennessee, they already have lost a 3rd-round pick trading for Snead, so not in a great spot there. You look at the Browns, there's no reason to move up because you have to have a threat of a team moving up in order to move back. You look at the quarterback situation, you could definitely say that a team like the Raiders could want to move up for a QB, but this is something I will repeat a couple times in this video. I do not have a single starting grade on a single quarterback in this class. All of them are fringe starters to me, or below that as just pure developmental players. And I love them. I do love them, but all of them have unique flaws that when you ask yourself, are these guys top 20 quarterbacks in the NFL? Because right now that's the threshold between whether a team will look to replace you or not, roughly. And none of these guys are top 20 at the moment. There's a couple that I think could get there, but I just don't see the need based on the exact value to be able to spend it here. So I think we're going to have to stick and pick. That's the God honest truth. And there's 2 players that I think, so you look at, there's 3 players I want to evaluate here. You got Travis Hunter, which you can have him replace Deontay Johnson. That's a solidified role in this offense that certainly could end up paying very big dividends. I don't believe that's that's not something I'd be against. But I also want to look at the edge rushers here. Nick Scorton's dropped for me a little bit. LT Overton, I have him a little bit lower, but you got guys like Abdul Carter, even Mikael Williams for the most part, because he's finally turning it on. But Abdul Carter and James Pierce, to me, have absolutely accelerated their draft stock in terms of their play over the past couple weeks, unlike any other player. James Pierce has just been unbelievably efficient. I consider him very close to Dallas Turner in terms of skill set. Like he does actually play the run far better than what you'd ever imagine. But Abdul Carter is the guy who has that coverage ability as well, has that flexibility. And you know what? I'm going to support it. Let's go Abdul Carter at number 2 overall. He's done a fantastic job for being so new at the position. Like, James Pierce needed more time to develop and polish his game. Abdul Carter's already relatively polished, only a couple games into his pure edge career. And number 3 for the Browns, this is a team, like, I actually got this question yesterday, so I'm going to be going to Travis Hunter here. I do understand the potential desire to go after a left tackle here in Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks, I still have concerns over him being a pure left tackle in the NFL. I don't think it's like a length concern, but he does have some leverage issues. Like, he's not a guaranteed guy for me. I know for Field Yates loves him, and the more I watch him, he gets slightly better each time. So I do like that factor, and I really hope to fall in love with him the way Field Yates loves Kelvin Banks. But for me, I'm not there yet. And when you look at the Browns, there's a couple areas where there are some pretty big vacancies. So Amari Cooper's gone. Elijah Moore, he either is going to be a trade deadline candidate, or you go on and you end up seeing him being a free agent after this year. So you have a massive vacancy at receiver. That's perfect for Travis Hunter. But also running back. This team has been heavily reliant on running back. And then people always want to say, you got to go quarterback. You got to go quarterback. Again, I ended up mentioning this at number 2 overall, so I'll keep it much shorter here. None of these quarterbacks I have a starting grade on. None of them. Jalen Milroe has poor ball placement. He's a great athlete. He's amazing. I love him to death. But that doesn't, just because I love a player doesn't mean he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, I love Kenny Pickett. Does not mean he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I think everybody, including my fellow Steelers fans, would agree. Cam Ward, he's extremely risky. And the high-end throws are awesome, but the consistency worries me because the turnover-worthy plays are really bad. Shedeur Sanders, he's probably the safest bet out of all the bunch. And even for him, his depth of drop is ridiculous. 11-yard drop, not great, especially for your offensive line. Not great escapability. So you talk about like Jalen Hurts, he gets sacked 5 times and then he has a highlight reel escape of a tackle. Jalen Hurts is a better athlete than Shedeur Sanders. So all these guys have their respective pluses and minuses. Even Miller Moss, you guys know I love him. I don't have a starting grade on Miller Moss right now. So don't force a need. Just don't do it. You're going to fuck yourself over because the next year you're going to be like, well, Arch Manning's coming out. He's a lot better than the guy that we have. So if you're really in that situation, if you're in the top 10, get a guy who you know is going to start for your team. You need to know that they're going to start. You need to know that they have the talent to be a superstar. Right now, I don't have that. So it'd be between Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty at this spot, and I'm going to go Travis Hunter here. At pick number 4 for the Titans, it's wide receiver, offensive line, corner. Those are the 3 positions I'd rather go. There's not really too much fluctuation in terms of my opinion there. The right tackle class got significantly worse once Cam Williams ended up showing that he is a brand new starter to right tackle. Like, he didn't play last year. So I do think that there is some concern there. You could go Kelvin Banks and see what happens. I'm not going to fully hate on you for doing that. But I also saw someone mention Mason Graham. That'd be a ridiculous defensive interior with him, Simmons, as well as Devondre Sweat. But I really do think the best way to improve this team is in that corner core. Will Johnson's a fantastic corner. He has all the ceiling in the world, and he has just an unbelievable floor. Who gives a shit based on, he's also been not necessarily fully healthy this year, but he's been a pick 6 machine. He's extremely reliable. He's still due for a reevaluation overall. I don't really see necessarily the quality of receiver apart from week 2 for me to truly fully regrade him, but he's definitely someone that I want to watch like 5 games of this year because he hasn't been nearly as efficient as he was last year, but I do think that, health has something to do with it. Pick number 5 for the New York Jets. You could talk about going after a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. I do like the idea of going defensive interior here. Free agency or, retaining guys like Alan Lazard, take out the need for Tetairoa McMillan, in my opinion. There's just not really a need for that. So, personally, I think this might be the first spot where you can genuinely justify moving up with another team. And the question is, who's going to be available that's worth it? You look at Mason Graham, I don't really see any teams, within striking range that would be willing to move up for Mason Graham. You look at guys like T-Mac, you could see some teams get a little aggressive here. But also, the Saints, if you don't think Spencer Rattler is the guy, which he's a 5th-round pick, so you don't necessarily have a lot invested in him, you could be in the market to now bring in that competition. Derek Carr has become check down Carr again. It was a 2-year wonderful streak. Like, it's one of those memes where it was like, you remember the first 2 weeks of the 2024 Saints, and it's like, it was special. That's the vibe. But we all know that it's not solidified there. That's where Cam Ward might first go. And if that's the case, I do think a team like the Raiders could be aggressive here, or the Giants. Now, I think Cam Ward will be the first quarterback to go based on arm talent, and like just the high-end throws are ridiculous. So I do think that you need to be able to move up over the Saints to get Cam Ward, because I don't think they're a Shedeur Sanders style, just based on the fact they drafted Spencer Rattler. They like the guys with the more arm talent mobility. If they don't have Cam Ward there at 6, because that's my first dark horse opinion pick, I'm going to say that they pass on that. So it's going to be Cam Ward at 6 if a team doesn't move up. We have 2 quarterback needy teams right here that are both going to be looking for an upgrade. I'm moving up with the New York Giants. We're going New York to New York, baby. And, you know, again, they have a solid amount of draft capital here. It shouldn't take overwhelmingly too much. Like, it might take a future 3rd and a this year 3rd. Do your own math on the future pick, okay? Also, hello, thank you, PFF. They finally put in the mock draft simulator, the future years. Hallelujah. So, again, feel free to negotiate your own trades down the line. It is what it is. We're going to put that through. The New York Giants have moved up. It also allows the Jets to be in a more comfortable position to go after maybe different positions. But the New York Giants have moved up for Cam Ward, which is going to look great on the thumbnail. Again, Cam Ward, I still have my concerns with him. He had 2 of the past 3 weeks with 3 turnover-worthy plays each, but he is coming off his best performance, in my opinion, of the year versus Louisville, which is a very good squad. Pick number 6 for the New Orleans Saints. Tetairoa McMillan makes a ton of sense for the squad, but I do want to emphasize we have rounds 2 and 3 where if you were to pass on Tetairoa McMillan and you go for like the Tetairoa McMillan at home, which to be fair, I do think he's actually better than Tetairoa McMillan. You got Jaden Higgins here. You got Trey Harris. Like, you have pick 38. You can easily get either of those 2. I don't think that there's a big threat to that. In the 3rd round, you could even go after Bo Collins. I don't think there's a massive threat to your receiving core if you don't get T-Mac. I know that Shaheed, you got him, Olave. It is kind of the perfect trio there. But in the 2nd round, I don't think you get a defensive back like Malachi Starks. I know some of y'all had some pushback on that, but I really do love him. Mason Graham's the only other guy who I'd consider here. Hand on heart, I really love Mason Graham and how well he's played this year, but Malachi Starks is going to be the pick. I just think the Saints are a team that consistently goes best player available in the secondary. They've done it with Kool-Aid McKinstry. They didn't need that, but he fell to them, and that's what they did. Malachi Starks didn't necessarily fall because it's in the top 10, but Honey Badger's not the youngest guy on planet Earth. Malachi Starks is a perfect replacement for him. Pick number 7 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Offensive line, super key. Wide receiver could be key, as well as corner. I think just addressing that offensive line, again, we're going to be kind of pretty similar to what we did in the past draft. We're going to be going after Kelvin Banks here. So, getting someone who could play that left tackle spot if need be. Worst case scenario, you have yourself a high quality guard. I just think that it's very unrealistic to drop him out of the top 10 or at least out of the top 20. Pick number 8 for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's quarterback and running back all the way. No one's going to get fooled here. The thing is, I want to emphasize this, and because I know it's going to piss some people off. We're going to get a quarterback. It might be at the end of this round. So before you open your traps, just check. And if it isn't, just wait for tomorrow, because I can guarantee you I'm getting a quarterback 1st or 2nd round. But you cannot deny the fact that if Bijan Robinson can go in the top 10, so can Ashton Jeanty. And Ashton Jeanty is going to be the lifeblood of the Raiders. I will put this out there right now. Again, first off, do not have any starting graded quarterbacks. Like, all these guys are fringe starters to me. The only reason I moved up for Cam Ward is because he has the highest ceiling in terms of physical arm talent. Like, that's it. He has some of the most jaw-dropping throws. I will have plenty of these guys there in round 2 or at the end of round 1. You can be perfectly happy with getting Ashton Jeanty and then Shedeur Sanders, or Ashton Jeanty and Jalen Milroe, or Ashton Genty and Garrett Nussmeier, or Ashton Genty and Drew Eller. You get what I'm saying there. So keep that in mind. Don't be so siloed into thinking that your only pick of the entire draft is the first round, because good teams draft the biggest playmakers for themselves. And the Raiders want a whole new identity. Ashton Genty has been unbelievably phenomenal this year. You might say running back in the top 10 is ludicrous. I say that's bullshit. He has been well deserving of it. If Saquon Barkley can go at number 2, Ashton Genty can go easily at number 8. I debated taking him at number 3. Pick number 9 for the Jets. We traded back. This is a good opportunity where we could take a developmental QB, but look at all those picks right there. There's a lot of developmental quarterbacks that we can take in this draft. 37, 69, 73. Those are good spots to do that. So at this selection, I think I'm now comfortable going after Mason Graham, getting some extra punch on the interior. I know that's not a super popular pick, but guess what? If it makes you feel better, we're giving the biggest middle finger possible to the Miami Dolphins there at pick number 10, because Mason Graham would have been my dream pick for them. At pick number 10 for the Dolphins, you could see a new regime coming in here. I do think wide receiver is not out of the realm of possibility. Tyreek Hill said that he wanted to retire after his next contract. Or after his current contract, you could see someone like Isaiah Bond really bringing the juice along with Jalen Waddle. That would be kind of like, they're pretty similar in terms of style, but I really love Isaiah Bond. And I think you guys do too. It's very hard to grade as a high-end receiver for me, by the way. Like, the guys who actually grade 75 and up for my receivers, like, I essentially think the majority of positions outside a receiver are easier to grade. Like, I think that if you see genuinely someone who's a 75 plus as a receiver for me, they're going to be a star in the NFL, and Isaiah Bond is absolutely that. So looking at the options for the Dolphins, again, you could look at that developmental quarterback train. I'm not necessarily there. I think this is the perfect opportunity to move down. You have the Rams here who are left tackle hungry. You look at the guys available. You're like, okay, you got Josh Simmons and Arianti Urzuri here. Both of them are doing a fantastic job. Are there any teams that are desperate for a left tackle? Answer, no. So I don't think that left tackle is going to be something that you really push up. Now, defensive interior, we do have the Cardinals here, but also the Cardinals are looking for edge rusher. Are there any teams that are looking for edge? As a matter of fact, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3 teams in the next 4 picks that I could easily see going edge. And the thing is, I see the Bengals as a bigger threat to take an edge that the Niners want than pretty much any team within striking range that would want an edge that the Cardinals would want. So if I'm the Niners, let's get aggressive. Let's have a good time. Let's take some risks here. And the Dolphins and the Niners have that connection. Look at that. I'll be damned. And for this, I remember it was pick 120 from 17 to 15. I easily think that it could be a pick 78. Again, toss in your future picks if you want. Maybe toss in 228. Do your own math. It's not going to affect the mock draft the end of the day, unless it's like really comes down to that later on. I'm going to allow the Dolphins and the Niners to do another trade. Pretty sure that's how the Trey Lance trade ended up happening too. I think the Dolphins were at 3 and the Niners eventually got there. So regardless, the Niners have moved up for their top tier edge rusher. Now the question is, which one do they want? Shedeur Stewart's a really fun one, but I want to bring some new names into the table. JT Tuimoloau has been unbelievably fantastic this year. I got to say, he's worth a first-round pick. He's going to be my pick for the Bengals if he's not for this one. It's between him, Nick Scorton, and Mikael Williams. Mikael, I'm still waiting on him to be consistent. I think that he's a really solid edge rusher, built to play an edge rusher in the NFL. Nick Scorton might just need to lose some weight. That's it. He's 285, and he has a lot of promise. And I think he's going to be the more likely selection because at Purdue, he was easily a top 3 player in this class. So the Niners move up, and then the Rams are sitting here at pick number 11. And just like in my recent mock draft, I'm actually going to say the Rams are willing to roll the dice on Josh Simmons, who I think is he's the 4th best player in the class when healthy. That plus means that they're out for the year, by the way. So unfortunate that he is there, but I do think the Rams are in a spot where Josh Simmons is someone who I would take at number 1 overall. If he got hurt and he's back at number 11, that's where, especially in this developing franchise mode, because I think we've kind of called it quits on them being genuinely contenders. If Cooper Kupp's on the trade market, I think they agree to go after the best player available, and Josh Simmons is pretty much a number 1 overall player that you're getting at number 11. Pick number 12 for the Arizona Cardinals. We're going edge here. And I know defensive interior is a really good one to go after as well. We're going James Pierce. I think James Pierce might be the best player in the country. Will Johnson might drop below James Pierce. It's ridiculous how well he's progressed. And he showed all the moves last year. He was actually a really solid run defender as well. And I've continued harping on that. But the thing about James Pierce is that like there's one particular rep where he spun into the chest of J.C. Latham. Honestly, I've seen that a little bit with Nick Scorton, him spinning into offensive linemen. It was like he had the right move, he had the technique, but he just didn't have the timing or the like direction or the angle. And James Pierce was my number 32 player for such the longest time because I was waiting on him to put it all together. He's put it all together. This guy's a fantastic edge rusher. He really is nearing that Dallas Turner level of love for me. I think this guy's going to be an absolute stud, and he's an amazing addition here for the Cardinals, who have shown to be very willing to take guys who are 250 and under. Pick number 13 for the Cincinnati Bengals. We could easily go after some other stars here. You can go Kenneth Grant and pair him up with Chris Jenkins. That'd be entertaining. But you could even go T-Mac if you can't end up keeping your wide receiver there in T. Higgins. So T-Mac, T. Higgins could work. But edge rusher, edge rusher, edge rusher. I hate the edge rushers in round 2. Just because I know how much I'm going to love the edge rushers in round 1. JT Tuimoloau's worth it. You guys won't like this. I know for a fact because everybody hates JT now. And I used to be the guy who was very against JT. Very against him. I could not stand the hype. I remember watching that first Georgia game, Ohio State versus Georgia, in that playoff game, and just watching him being like, how the hell can anyone like this dude? Like, genuinely, I could not understand. But the more I've watched JT, the way that he has played NFL-level tackles this year, with the consistency and the effort, he is a first-round pick. And he's 270 pounds. And he plays phenomenally well. And he's next to a really quality edge rusher there in Jack Sawyer. So I think this is right up the Bengals' alley. Now the question is, do we need to take JT here? I do think that you could be at risk of the Falcons trying to lurk him, because I do want to get a little bit of a good deal. Between you and me, I want to get a good deal here. But that's going to be the move I make. That is. By the way, Ben Morrison is going to be out in this mock draft. I will probably have to respond to some comments for that. But is there anybody worth moving up for? And we got Arianti Urzuri here. I do see that there are some teams that could certainly be lurking for a tackle, including the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks are a team that I heavily want to focus on going after offensive line. And, you know, since the Dolphins have ended up moving back, I think that they're a little bit more open to the idea of going after a star offensive lineman like Urzuri. And again, Cam Williams is going to take his time. I don't think he'll come out in this class, but we'll still consider him for the time being. I do think there's a noticeable drop-off besides Urzuri and Jack Nelson, but Urzuri is just such a fit for Seattle, and I actually think it's a really solid move for the Bengals and the Seahawks, because the Seahawks, in my opinion, are not as far away as some believe. So again, for this range, I do think a third-round pick as well as maybe a future fifth would be adequate. You could end up tossing in 174 if you'd please, but we'll leave it at that. The Seahawks move up, the Bengals move back and get a ton of firepower, and you end up getting Arianti Urzuri. Cam Williams makes a little more sense because of the fact that he's raw, a right tackle, but Urzuri is far more NFL ready at the moment. So don't take the super high ceiling guy just because it's exciting. Urzuri is someone who is an instant upgrade in the run blocking, along with he's very nimble of foot. I think that he's going to be a far better day one prospect than Cam Williams is right now. And I think Cam Williams should return. I think he'll be a top 5 pick next year. But regardless, he's still going to be included in this. We do have the Dolphins back on the clock. And with them on the clock, I feel comfortable going after Kenneth Grant. Get a big defensive interior that can pretty much end up replacing the vacancy that just left with Christian Wilkins. I know that Grant at his size is not necessarily a one-on-one body type switch, but the athleticism, the motor, he's been doing a great job. Pick number 15 for the Cowboys, a guy who I definitely would have considered would have been Kenneth Grant. However, looking at the options available, I don't think I can pass on Tetairoa McMillan at this point because he is a perfect boundary receiver to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. Just continue boosting the defense in the later rounds and be able to get some firepower now, because the offense in terms of firepower is kind of lacking. Pick number 16 for the Denver Broncos. It's a team where I personally feel perfectly fine going after Luther Burden, Isaiah Bond, but you do have someone who's very high potential here in Cam Williams, where, I do see a team in the Eagles where you might not be able to resist the Stoutland U, or even the Falcons. I know a lot of people have been talking about Caleb McGarry not being a great pass protector. So you could certainly see that there might be some teams that might be interested in Cam Williams. I don't think that the urge is going to be enough to move the needle for him. So I do think that wide receiver is going to be the primary target for me. I do love Luther Burden on the squad. The after the catch ability is unreal, and he fits this offense like a glove. Don't overthink it. Just get yourself a solid quality receiver. The Falcons, it's going to be Isaiah Bond, or else it's going to be one of the top edge rushers. I think edge rusher is perfectly reasonable. And you look at Shamar Stewart, JT Tuimoloau, LT Overton, and Mykel Williams. Mykel, I don't know how the hell to say it. I hear a different pronunciation from every single person. I think that he is going to be hyped up a lot because he's going to have great arm length. He's going to be extremely athletic, and he's a great player. But he's going to be one of those guys where the production doesn't match the draft value. And I do think that a team that, if you can end up bringing Judon back to, coach up Mykel, you could end up really having someone who could be a fantastic addition. Could end up going a lot higher than this, but for the time being, we're having him go at 17. For the Eagles at pick 18, it's tight end and edge rusher. So who's going to be an Andrew Van Ginkel? I'm much lower on Princely now than I was. That sucks, but I don't see any of these edge rushers except Josiah Stewart being someone who I'd even remotely consider for a Vic Fangio system. Just not going to be my type of guy. Now, apparently they're in the talks for Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's just Howie being Howie. Again, by the way, Ben Morrison, not going to be coming out in this. You could certainly be tempted with a Cam Williams developmental track. I'm not going to go there. I am going to look at the tight end room because Goddard's 29, probably 30 around that point. It's time to look, especially in Kellen Moore's offense. I don't know if Kellen Moore will be poached this year. I highly doubt it, but assuming Kellen Moore is there, he loves his tight ends as well. And you got Warren and you got Loveland here. I don't think you can go wrong with going either one. And I think that based on the blocking archetype of Warren, it's going to be a little bit more attractive. At pick number 19 for the Bengals, I emphasized this earlier, so I'm going to be doing it, JT Tuimoloau. If you want to see my explanation, feel free to go and look at when I did the trade with Seattle. It's just bottom line, he's someone who has just been unbelievably fantastic this year, super high motor, could even end up being a top 10 player on my board when all is said and done. Pick number 20 for the Indianapolis Colts. Again, Ben Morrison going to be considered returning in this. It's my fault for not saying it at the start of the video, but he's a true junior who's out for the year. There's no reason to come out. So I don't really trust the DBs in this class. It's pretty much Siobhan Revell, which I took in my last mock draft. And Davison Igbinosun needs to start getting respect. And it still kills me that PFF hasn't put him in there. But I know Trevor is the guy. This is his board. So again, I respect it. Trevor is someone who's doing a ton of shit, so I'm not going to be the one to bag on him. But you could see here, you could actually go after Colson Loveland if you would like. I think this is a good spot to trade. It is. You got Isaiah Bond here, and I see the Chargers. Talk about pairing Ladd McConkey, Isaiah Bond, Quentin Johnston. That's a squad that I think would work really well. On top of that, this is also a team that would be dying to get Colston Loveland. And I can see a very short-range trade here with the Buccaneers where they are definitely in the market for Colson Loveland to be able to jump them. And I think that's going to be exactly what happens. The Buccaneers are going to trade up a very, very, very small distance. I think it'll only take 157. I'll actually end up putting 123 and getting back 194. Do your own math. It's not going to be a massive differential. But the Buccaneers end up jumping and end up going after Colston Loveland. Pick number 21 for the Chargers. Again, Bond is on the board. Very intriguing option here. Could easily see them going after him, and it's probably actually a route I haven't done before, but I might actually do. Want to look at the offensive line options here for potential trade up as well. Yeesh. Again, I should probably just look at my own board. My next best player that's available, again, Ben Morrison not included in this, is Jalen Walker. I do love Jalen Walker to death. Could have been an Eagle, but again, I want to change things up a little bit. I go Jalen Walker for Philly all the damn time. So you got Jalen Walker. You got the guards, but again, those guys are probably subject to reevaluation soon. It's pretty much Isaiah Bond. So I think that actually, let's roll the dice. Let's do it. Let's get Isaiah Bond in this squad and have someone who's a true deep threat paired up with Ladd McConkey. Both of them also are really good route runners too. So I do love the fact that you can stretch the field now with multiple weapons. Pick number 22 for the Indianapolis Colts. We moved back and we're pretty much in the exact same situation that we were in. This is where I feel comfortable going after Siobhan Revell. I will be considering him coming out even though he did tear his ACL. He's just not the youngest prospect on planet Earth, so I do think he still could be in the consideration for the first round. Pick number 23 for the Chicago Bears. Offensive line is going to be super key for me. Honestly, this is where you could take Cam Williams and put him at guard for the short run because he's a tackle at heart. But this is something where you could end up big braining the hell out of this and end up getting yourself a superstar that you're going to put him at guard if you need to, but you could actually end up even putting him at left tackle. Karan Amagaji is on the squad. Don't forget that. 3rd round pick from last year. You had 4 picks. One of them was Karan. Was it 4? No, it was 5, right? Because you got Austin Booker as well. So 5 picks. You got Taylor, Booker, Amagaji, obviously Odunze as well as Williams. So I do think that you should be at least in the market for this. Re-sign Darrell Taylor. I think that he just belongs on your squad. So for me, I actually really like the potential of Cam Williams, especially since you can get him as a tackle or a guard, or you could put Karan Amagaji at one of those spots. Again, Cam Williams, very raw. I think he should go back. Not considering him going back just yet because, when you're a first-round tackle, it's kind of hard just to say, hey, you're going back. But Cam Williams is going to be the selection there and will be the developmental left tackle that you'll put at left guard for the short run, or you might get lucky. He's someone who's just still so young at the position. By the end of the year, he easily could be worth this. Pick number 24 for the Baltimore Ravens, another team I would have loved for Cam Williams to go to. This is the team where I feel very comfortable going after offensive line, and you can go after Donovan Jackson, Tate Ratledge, Tyler Booker. I mean, you can't go wrong. You really can't. Offensive tackle-wise, you could go Wyatt Milam, put him at guard. Emory Jones, put him at guard. Like, there's a lot of really good options here. But for me, I actually saw that Tyler Booker even played a game at tackle. I'm going to let him be able to dictate whether he plays left tackle or left guard. Pick number 25 for the Buffalo Bills. Receiver, going to be the key position to go for here. Because of the fact, I don't know if you're going to re-sign Amari Cooper. I assume you will. But with Amari and Keon, there still is that third role that I think needs to continue solidifying. That being said, I don't really see a guaranteed role. Emeka would be great in this squad. However, I do think you might have a better return on investment for going after edge. And going after edge, this guy, you guys were talking about this. Everybody said Bill when they talked about it. This Shamar Stewart's the best athlete I've ever studied at 290 pounds. Like, he moves like he's 245. Like, I almost gave him the 10 out of 10 for my grade for athleticism. It could be higher than that. He genuinely, like, I gave him 9.5. It could be that 10. Just unreal athlete. The get off is ridiculous. Like, this is just somebody that he's going to be a combine warrior. I mean, 290, he's probably going to run unbelievably fast, like sub 4.7. Like, there's just not many players you'll ever see with that build. And I think he's going to be a great addition. Speaking of a team where he would have been a great addition, we got the Washington Commanders. And again, Ben Morrison considered returning in this. So we're getting to the point where we might see some teams trying to trade up for quarterback. The Commanders, we did end up trading that Philadelphia 3rd round pick for Jahan Dotson. I assume that, like, it hasn't been traded in this. I don't know why. So I ended up doing that myself, so I didn't end up tripping over and doing something stupid. So I do think right tackle, you could look at an option here, but it's just not the year, man. It's just not the year. Look at edge. Look at corner. Those are where you're going to get your most value. LT Overton's perfectly reasonable. He's a good edge rusher and belongs in the first. By the way, this is the year of the edge. We got our asses saved by these edge rushers. Can you imagine how boring this draft would be without the edge rushing class? Unbelievable. So thank God for putting these amazing edge rushers into our hands. They've been doing a great job. At pick number 27, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers here. It's wide receiver, it's corner, it's going to be, Emeka Egbuka's pretty obvious option for me. Jalen Milroe and Shedeur Sanders, very hard to say no to. Like, this team does have a vacancy at quarterback because Russ as well as Justin are up for a contract after this year. And it's kind of hard to say no. The thing is, with Russ being our quarterback, I highly doubt that we'd go after the Milroe route. And I think for that, we actually still might end up going after a receiver here and going after a QB in round 2, because I just don't think the Steelers are desperate for one. I think we'll end up bringing back one of the two for an extra year to see if they can be consistent. And Emeka Egbuka works extremely well. I know he plays in the slot, but I think his best play is on the boundary. He just looks a lot better now because he was hurt last year, and we're comparing those 2 years. I like him on the boundary when JSN was in the slot and Marvin Harrison was on the boundary with him. I think he could be an amazing weapon for us. He brings the size after the catch ability that you're looking for. And if we're looking for a Cooper Kupp type, not super far off. So pick number 28 for the Green Bay Packers. I actually think I might trade out here. All these quarterbacks on the board, again, Ben Morrison considered returning in this, are just a little too enticing. And we got some teams up near the top that should be looking for quarterback, and including the Raiders as well. This is too big of a jump for the Raiders specifically, but I am thinking about the Browns and their future. And the fact that they ended up getting Travis Hunter, I think the Packers should be inclined to listen to an offer from the Browns. And look at the quantity of picks the Browns have. That's a ridiculous quantity. Obviously, it would be pick 104. And to be fair, that could be enough. Again, 17 to 15 is 120. So you could say that this is enough. Let's just toss in 251 for shits and giggles, so to speak. So we're going to move up with the Browns. The Packers trade back, but not too far. And the Browns have moved up to select Shedeur Sanders to pair him back up with their star wide receiver now in Travis Hunter. Again, really good move for the team overall. I think that's just going to be a super high floor quarterback that you don't really need to overthink. At pick 29 for the Houston Texans, I'm going defensive interior, and I didn't give this guy enough love last time. We got to go all the way down here for Walter Nolan. He's been doing such a good job, and he's due for reevaluation. He's probably going to be the next guy I do, but he's just been doing such a fantastic job. He's going to be a great gap penetrator for y'all, and it solves a massive issue. At pick number 30 for the Minnesota Vikings, this is Davison Igbinosun. Running back just isn't valuable enough for me. And again, Ben Morrison considered returning in this. Denzel Burke, he'll be in probably the 2nd or 3rd round because this class just isn't that good, and he's had really solid games overall. We're going to use Jordan Hancock as the placeholder for Davison Igbinosun, my number 19 player on my board. At number 31 for the Detroit Lions, I'm glad my head's holding up so far. I can start feeling the fog rolling in, but we're holding our ground. I do think that Jack Sawyer is such a Detroit Lion, but that's a 2nd round issue to me. Like, I don't think that we can justify any of these players here in the 1st. So I'm actually going to go after best player available. Best player available is probably going to be Donovan Jackson. Like, he's just extremely athletic, a great player. Tate Ratledge is someone who's extremely solid as well. That being said, I don't see a massive threat to being able to not get one of those guys. So this is where I actually might offer this at a discount for certain teams to move up and either select a defensive interior or get that 5th-year contract with Jalen Milroe. And that 5th-year deal is a pretty big one. And I'm looking at the Raiders right here. They do have some issues. They'll need to get a receiver, etc. But they have an identity. And I think both these teams are, blue blood. They're very hardcore. I love them to death. Both these franchises are fantastic. I do think they'll end up taking a 4th round and then maybe a 3rd round next year. I think the Vegas Raiders need to be able to prioritize getting as many picks possible this year. Might even end up getting 245 in return for this. Again, work the numbers the way that you like. But we're moving up with the Las Vegas Raiders to select Jalen Milroe. So, Genty, Milroe. Yeah, I can't wait to hear you guys bitch about that. You guys won't, because you love it. It's good. It's a good combo. Milroe has just been a little bit inconsistent, but that athletic upside combined with Genty's consistency, that's a way that you can have that high floor, and hopefully you get Getsy out of there, which I assume you will, you can end up getting something. Even Dable, you can bring Dable in and let him just toy with Jalen Milroe. But regardless, you get yourself a top-end weapon right there with a 5th-year contract. I think that's going to be great. Leaving off the Chiefs at 32. And for the Chiefs specifically, I do think that defensive interior with Tyreek Williams makes a ton of sense. Deone Walker makes a ton of sense. Harmon, Turner. Because of that, I don't feel the need to take a defensive interior here. I do think some people say Trey Smith might get franchise tag. That's extremely expensive, guys. That's extremely expensive. Why not go Donovan Jackson here? Like, I don't understand that. Like, there's some type of repulsion to it. Why not go in Emory Jones? Actually, I love Emory Jones' squad even more than Donovan Jackson because A, right tackle to right guard, but B, Emory Jones is just so powerful. He was my offensive lineman 1 coming into the year, even above what I had. Well, actually, that's technically not true. He wasn't above Donovan Jackson, but I mean, he was very, very close too. And he's a feisty player, man. He can't play tackle. He can't play tackle. Like, just, he's a guard. But I think he's a damn good one. I think people need to understand that. No, I got to go best player available. We're going to go Deone Walker. He has the highest upside out of all these guys. You want to go after players with untapped potential because you have Chris Jones there. Let's not play too many mind games here. That's going to be the first round. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for rounds 2 and 3 tomorrow. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.